Right. Is everyone ready? Woo! Hi. Hello. Shut up. Cool. All right. So before we get started, just by show of hands and out of interest, who's here for the content of the talk? And who's here for the free helmet? Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Cool. So that's nice of you guys. Thank you for coming. So my name's Laura. I'm part of Team Chimera, and I'm here to talk to you. Woo! I'm here to talk to you about how we as a team have developed from the very beginnings when we first got together right through to competing and coming third at Nationals and planning to go on and do better in the years to come. So what I'm going to talk about today is not going to be things like block technique or how to do an exit. It's going to be more of the things around how to put 4 people together, or in fact however many people it is. This covers 8-way, VFS, free flying, whatever you want to do. We're also giving away a free KISS helmet, so everyone should have had a raffle ticket as they came in. Someone's shaking his head. Matt, give this man a raffle ticket. We're going to draw it at the end of the session. Cool. So getting started then. Yeah, so that's us, Team Chimera. I've got various of the team here today as well who can stand up and answer some questions at the end. But to get started then, the journey of a competitive skydiver isn't always a straightforward one. And if you're newer to the sport, I know from myself when I was new, I looked up at the teams on the podiums, people like Storm who were up there, and thought, oh my God, how on earth have they managed to achieve that? And you don't often get to see the journey that those people have been through along the way. So for me, my specific journey started in 2008 when I was on a team called Pogo Boing, which I still think is one of the best team names ever. And we were a team where I was the least experienced. I had about 50 jumps. One of the other guys, a guy called Ian Taylor, would just fling me around the sky and make things happen. And that was my first experience of competitive skydiving. And we were rubbish. We were truly awful. So I took that skill that I built up in Pogo Boing and decided to just do AAA the next year. Because, well, why not? So I was in a team with Pete, who is the gentleman with a crown. And we were in the bar one night and we were looking at it and thinking, you know what, it seems like everyone's putting a lot of money into 4-way, but we don't believe you have to. And thanks to things like all the BPA road shows and all of the great skydivers at Langar where we jump, we were able to get a lot of free or very low cost support that meant that we weren't awful and we didn't come last, which was really cool. Then from being an Enigma, I was in another team called Enigma Force. Then everyone wanted to be an Enigma, so we made a squad and we called it Enigma Block Party. Then I was in a team called Lower Booster and we were okay, and then I joined Chimera. So the point is that you don't always start at the top, and it's important to take every single team that you're in as part of that learning journey. So step 1 then to getting to this point where you're in a successful team is to know what you want. So what do I mean by that? Well, there's lots of reasons that you might want to start in a skydiving team. When I was in Enigma, it was because we wanted to prove that you didn't need loads of money. Now that I'm in Chimera, it's because we want to do really well and we want to achieve on a national and an international stage. For you guys, you might be putting together a team to make new friends. It's a great way to get to know people, maybe to learn new skills. I know that we've done a lot of training one-on-one and as a 4-way that have helped us to really progress as individual flyers as well. To improve on your existing skills, it might be about scoring a higher average. It might be about becoming a coach one day. It could be all sorts of reasons. But what's really important is that you guys take the time to think, why am I doing this? And what do I want to get out of that? And when you know what your goals are, you're in a much stronger position to find like-minded teammates. So it never would have worked for me if I'd had massive dreams of being a podium skydiver when I was in Enigma, when Sam and Pete just wanted to get pissed in the bar. Equally, if I wanted to get pissed all the time in Chimera and we actually want to do quite well, that wouldn't work. So make sure you know what your personal goals are first, and then you can find like-minded people. So yeah, that's step number 2, is to find those like-minded teammates. And that's about being able to set goals with one another. So once you know what it is that you're trying to achieve personally, you can then discuss how those goals overlap and where you might have to make compromises and how you can set on a team goal between you. It's about setting an amount of time. So quite often we want to go and train overseas, let's say, or we want to do competitions here, there and everywhere. We've got to make sure that everyone's got the time set aside to do that and to have those discussions. So for us in Chimera, we've done quite a lot of training at Skydive Langar, overseas, in the tunnel, and we did a lot more last year than we will this year, because this year I'm going on holiday for 3 weeks, so I haven't got that time to put aside. But because we all have those conversations and discussions, we can find the compromises that work. Talking about your commitment level as well, so are you willing to turn up at the drop zone together and sit there potentially in bad weather all day, versus are you just kind of in it for a bit of fun, and agreeing that between you. Budget as well, agreeing that everyone's got the right amount of money, enough money, whatever you want to spend, agreeing what that is between you. And also, can you spend a lot of time together? So for those of you in the room who know my teammates, you'll know that Chris Judd's an absolute knob and the worst to hang out with. But luckily, Matt, Sarah and James are super nice, so it means that the overall balance is quite fun. But in all seriousness, making sure that you're happy to spend that amount of time with those people and that you put the effort into getting to know each other really well. And I'll give you some techniques for that in a bit. But yeah, find like-minded teammates and agree your goals. It's important you agree on what you're trying to achieve as a team and set clear goals and budgets to avoid any clashes later on in the season. Step number 3 then is to choose your coach. Just out of interest, those of you who are competing, just by show of hands, who's got a coach at the moment? Yeah? Cool. I know that getting a coach can sometimes feel like an expense that you might not want to have to pay for. You feel like, oh, I can probably learn quite a lot from the BPA roadshows, which is true. I can probably learn a lot by visualising by myself, which is also true. But what we've found is that it really is invaluable to have a great coach. An outside perspective is something that we've really valued. So between the 4 of us or the 5 of us, we are able to talk through techniques and talk through how we're going to do things, but actually having someone with that experience to be able to give you the outside perspective just makes it so much easier, and you learn so much more. And even though you're paying them however much per day, you're getting so much more benefit out of that. If you have budget, this is an excellent way to spend it, both in that it's going to cost you a lot, but also that it's going to be hugely valuable. And like I say, make use of the free coaching as well at the BPA roadshows. And we've been really, really fortunate to have Katie Woods, who's our coach. She has been absolutely phenomenal from the start. And then we've also been able to go out and add other coaches into the mix, which has been really helpful as well. So even if you are investing with a coach, don't be afraid to take advice from other people. We've also paid for coaching from Niklas from Airspeed, but also if anyone's ever around while we're dirt diving or in the tunnel and they want to give us advice, we always take it. Because what you can then do is choose from the bits that work for you and leave the bits that don't. So choose a coach. Step number 4 then is to make a plan for your team. So what might that look like? Well, for us, we always try and plan early in the season. So I know that the weather's just starting to potentially get good again now, but actually for us in Chimera, our season started way back in October. And we tend to make a plan to make sure that we've set aside some time for tunnel evenings or for tunnel weekends or to go overseas and to do all of that so that we can allocate what we need to, and everyone can then make other plans around that. So we always make a plan really early. We always think about our allocated budget as well and how best to make use of that. So we have got a limited amount of holiday to take this year, and we're going to go and we're going to spend a lot of time with Niklas and with Katie and investing in what might be more expensive days, but that we're going to get more value out of because we've only got a short amount of time. And focus on the activities that are going to help you the most. So one of the things that we do in our 4-way team is that we've got a spreadsheet where we time each one of our blocks, for example. So from key to key, how long does it take us? And then also time the other teams that are on the table around us and other teams that, like Evolution that Katie used to be in, or Airspeed, so that we can set those goals and we can say, well, we take this long and they take that long, and we can spot the blocks that really need attention. Focusing on the activities that are going to help you most will help you get more out of your time. And we've used pretty much the same training plan since we started. So we tend to have our tunnel phase. So running up to the World Challenge, which happens in April, we'll spend a lot of time working on block technique, working on seeing the pictures in the tunnel, working on flying together really comfortably and really exercising those moves. And the same is true of any discipline. It's not just 4-way. You could do this. And then once we've done the World Challenge, that's when we're in what we call our jump phase. So that's when we do start doing a lot more jumping in the sky, but also tunnel with rigs. So yeah, make a plan, make sure it's something you all agree with, and try and make it early on in the season. Step number 5 then is to think about how you can enhance your training. So it's dead easy to say, what does skydiving training look like? Well, we go and we perform the moves that we need to perform, or we learn the moves that we need to be able to do, and then we practice it over and over again. And that's it at the very most basic level. It's about training and understanding the moves you have to make. But we've also found that there have been some additional components that we've been able to add to get even more out of that. So look for tips and tricks that make your training more effective, and keep in mind that everyone is different, and find what works for you. So I'll give you a few examples. This picture up here is us down at Bedford at Twinwoods doing some training with Katie, where she thought it would be a really good idea for us to not have booties, but also to just wear their student suits, which I think there was a bit of a mixed response to, wasn't there, within the team. Some of us liked it, some of us didn't, but the idea was that we'd get a lot of value out of trying a little bit of a different technique. I'm just going to drink some of my coffee. Ooh, strong coffee. So some of the ways that we also enhance our training, visualise. Again, just by show of hands, who visualises in the room? Cool. I think when I started jumping, which was about 10 years ago now, I remember seeing people in the plane with their eyes closed and doing all this and thinking, what are they doing? They look like idiots. But it works so well, and it's so helpful. We always visualise while we're in the plane. We always visualise just before our jump. We also visualise in between training. So one of the things that's been quite fun and that we tried last year was that we would text a dive to one another within our Chimera group. And then whenever you had free time, you would be able to go through that. And that free time, as Katie advised us, was often when we were on the toilet. So if you're going to be going to the loo, having a dive that you can run through in your head and practice can be really valuable. And that visualisation is up to you how best you want to work that. So I know that for some people, it's really helpful to picture yourself in the moment of the skydive and to be able to see everyone around you. But for others, they like to see it from the cameraman's point of view. And some people like to do both. But essentially, what you're trying to do with your visualisation is to think, what's it going to feel like? What's it going to look like? Where are the potential sticking points for me? And essentially, you're doing the skydive, but it's in your head and it's for free. So it makes absolute sense to spend some time doing that. The next way that we found to enhance our training is to pass the rock. Yeah, really, it's kind of lame, and we don't have an actual rock, but we get a huge amount of value out of just setting aside a bit of time each day that we're training together to talk about how it's gone. And we go around in the circle and we say, you know, I really enjoyed how we did this, or this was a bit of a struggle for me. And that might be related to the jumps, or it might also be related to how things have been dealt with during that day. But it just means you never finish a day with things that haven't been spoken about, and you never start the new day with things bubbling under the surface that might affect you. This is us at the World Cup in St. Louis with, unfortunately, Chris Judd couldn't come. I was super sad. But we had Aaron Faith, who used to be in Satori with Katie, and he joined us. And we did our kind of pass the rock chat session. I've never been so motivated in my life. He was amazing. He was telling us that we'd done the best exit he'd ever seen, and our flying was the best he'd ever witnessed. And then we were like, why are we so far down the table if this is true? And everyone has their own style. Everyone has their way of working it. But it genuinely is helpful. Get to know each other better. So James and Chris know each other pretty well. Kath, also from NFTO, knows them quite well. Do with that information what you will. But I don't know what's up with James's face. I don't know what Kath's doing from behind, but it seems like a struggle. We are in quite a fortunate position, I think, that as a team in Chimera, we're all really good friends with each other, and we do things outside of the team all the time. We all live quite nearby to one another, and we all really enjoy doing things like going out for dinner or going out for drinks or just doing fun stuff as a group that mean that we've got that kind of underlying friendship that really helps us when we're in the team. But even if you don't have that, even if you're kind of the team that's been put together a little bit more, then you can still use various techniques to get to understand each other and how you work better. One of the things that we did with Katie quite early on was to talk about the things that really stress us out. And we sat down and we said, you know, when I'm stressed out, I tend to respond like this, and the way that I would like you to respond to me is like this. So to give an example, if I'm stressed out, it really helps me if the rest of them are like, oh, don't worry, you're so awesome, like you're really good, because I'm... to lie, yeah. Who said lie? I thought that was James. I totally thought it was James that said that. Yeah, so that helps me. But then if Chris is stressed, he'd much rather be on his own. So we now know that if we are in a situation where something's not going to plan and someone is feeling a little bit of pressure, we know that Chris is going to go and sit over there, whereas I'm probably going to run to the rest of them and go, please tell me how great I am, I need that. But that really, really helps to understand each other. Also knowing what people like to do on a daily basis. So to give another example, when we're training, I always like to pretend that I'm some kind of yoga god and do a little bit of a stretch before we go. Whereas Sarah is not so much of a stretcher. She's obviously naturally very fit anyway, so she doesn't need to stand there and kind of stretch out her arms at the beginning of a day. And again, that's fine, because we've got to know each other and we know what people like and what they don't. So spend the time getting to know each other. Maybe not quite as much as those guys do. Agree the I and the we. So this is all about knowing what is expected of you as an individual and of you all as a team. To give a practical example, let's say we had a spreadsheet and one of the columns says I at the top of it and one of it says we. So what do I do that is okay for me to do on my own, and what do we do as a team? So I, at the end of a jump, quite like to, no wait, how can I do it? No, so I, before the next round at Nationals, for example, quite like to go to our tent and sit and listen to a bit of Enya and get quite zen and relax. We, as a group, though, will always land from the previous round and go and drop our kit off and creep immediately. So the we is that we are all going to go and creep straight after our round. If we don't all do that, that's going to cause an issue because we have agreed that that's what we are going to do. But equally, if I go off to the tent after we've done all of that stuff because I want to chill, that's also okay because we've agreed I can do that and these guys can do whatever they want to do. And that's been a really helpful, I just got that laugh. That's been a really helpful technique for us because it means that we can say this is what's expected of us and this is what's expected of you. And don't be afraid to share. This is us when we were out in DeLand. Roy Wimmer, if any of you know him, he got a new rig from Vector and he asked us to bring it back for him. And before we did, he asked if it would maybe be possible to get a couple of photos of it, just so that you could see what that was like. So we did. What you probably can't see, because it's quite small, the picture is quite small, yeah, zoom in on it. Chris Judd's lower area is quite the treat when you zoom in. But yeah, it's really important to feel that you can share things with your teammates, and you don't necessarily have to get naked and wear someone else's rig to do that. It's just about having that open communication channel and knowing that if something is bothering you, or let's say you've got hurt and you think, oh, my knee really hurts while I'm flying, but I won't say anything because I don't want to let everyone down. Actually say something and get to that position where everyone feels that they can have that open level of communication, and it's going to really help you. A bit of a bonus tip then. The team isn't everything. So you guys probably, if you know us, you probably know that last year Chris had a really unfortunate accident that meant he broke his femur and he wasn't able to jump with us for the rest of the season. And in all seriousness, it was really, really sad. But what was quite interesting was the process that we all went through as a team after that happened. So I remember I got the call and it was my boyfriend Chris, who's down here, who rang me, and he was like, he's okay, but Chris just had an accident. And I was at work, and my boss overheard me on the phone, and he was like, oh, I heard that something's happened, do you need to go? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great, actually. So I went straight to the hospital, and all I was thinking is, oh my God, I hope he's okay. And then when I got there, and he was okay, like he was broken, but he was alive, I was so relieved, but then so sad for him that he was hurt. And then the whole process of watching him get his ketamine and watching him have his funny reactions to his drugs, and being there when the doctor was taking the splint off and almost pulling his bone out of place and all that kind of stuff. Throughout all of that, nothing about the team even entered my mind. It was, my friend is hurt and my friend's about to have a really shit time. And I wanted to be there for him. And I know for the rest of us as a team, that was the overriding emotion, was we're so relieved he's okay and we're so sad for him that this has happened. Probably over the next few days, we then went through a bit of a how do we help kind of phase, like what can we do? He works in the sport, he's not going to be able to make money, how's he going to drive, how are we going to, and we all kind of rallied around. And I think it was only about a week or so later that any of us actually thought, shit, this affects the team as well. And I think I even had a bit of a cry when I was like, oh my God, this changes everything. But the point is that it took that amount of time to get to that point because other things are more important than the team. And we've had some wicked times together as well. So these are just various pictures of us from all over the world when we've been out travelling, down in Nottingham doing our super fun Tuesdays and stuff with all of our friends. And I think the bottom line is that when we're in those really high pressured situations and we really want to do well in a competition, to just remember it's not all about the team and it's not all about that competition. And what we do is supposed to be fun. So those are my tips then for you guys. How do you develop a successful team? Well, firstly, know what you want. Think, what are the goals that I'm trying to get to? What do I want to achieve? That puts you in a much stronger position then to think, how do I find like-minded people? And to discuss those goals and to come up with shared goals between you. Step 3 is to choose a coach. So I genuinely do think it's super helpful if you can. The way that the sponsorship of the BPA is set up these days means that all of those of us who do receive that sponsorship also allocate some time to be at all the BPA roadshows. That includes the standard roadshows, also the UKSL meets. There's going to be people who are at a high level who are able to give you advice, so make use of that. Step 4 is to make a plan. So like I say, we make ours really early on in the season, and I suggest that's a really good way of managing it. Enhance your training. So all those techniques, pass the rock, going out for a few beers together, getting naked with Roy Wimmer's rig, all of those can really help. And then the tip that the team isn't everything. Make sure that you're enjoying it all the time as well. That's all I've got to share, but apart from that. But what we wanted to do is set aside a bit of time for you guys to ask any questions. So I'll invite the rest of the team to get up and join me up here. And if you guys have got any questions to ask, then feel free.
So I've got a question. Actually, you've brought the picture up. Can you now reveal who the bottom is?
Does anyone know who the bottom on the... Yeah, it's Frenchie. That was actually at the World Cup in St. Louis. We'd put our flag up in the team tent because we thought it was quite nice. Everyone had a bit of like team stuff going on, and then we went back to get it and it wasn't there. And yeah, it turns out that's where it was. Any other questions?
Are you drunk yet?
My coffee's strong. I'll, yeah. I wouldn't say no to a Jaeger bomb after this, though.
What stage do you consider getting sponsorship, and how do you go about getting it?
Yeah. Should I answer as the sponsorship person? So I'm going to answer it because, so within our team, we've all got different roles and things that we kind of do. And actually, we don't really. James and Sarah tend to do most of it, and then me and Chris and Matt sometimes do a little bit. But my role is to do the sponsorships. And the way that we've always gone about it is, firstly, no one deserves sponsorship. So it doesn't matter what we achieve or what average we get. We don't deserve it, but we would love to have it. So that's our kind of starting point. The next thing is to think about, why would somebody sponsor us and who would we love to be sponsored by? So we're very lucky to be sponsored by Square One. They give us all free helmets. And the way that came about is that we approached them with a bit of a plan and said, if you were able to help us out and give us helmets, What we will do in return for you is to promote your brand. So through today's event, hopefully you guys are all a bit more aware of Square One. But also when we do other events, so we've got a competition coming up at Langar where they will give us vouchers. So they know they're definitely getting a sale because we give a voucher to the winner at our events. And also we give them lots of photos as well. So they can say, we've got a team that are doing quite well in the UK who we can then use photos of. We've also been sponsored by jumpsuit manufacturers, and we're really lucky that Skydive Langar sponsors us as well. And the kind of give back to Skydive Langar is that we put events on and we bring new skydivers to the area. On the point of we say to them we do quite well and they get photos of us, we were also sponsored in an 8-way team called the Awkward Turtles, which wasn't quite so successful, I think it's fair to say. But again, we put forward a plan whereby we told them this is what we're going to give to you, and it was mainly photo based, that we were going to give them photos of us using those helmets at the World Cup that we went to. But I think it's always about not expecting to get something back, no one deserves it, and putting forward a proposal of what you can give back to them as well. Does that answer your question? Cool. Any more? Sorry?
How did you guys start as a team?
How did we start as a team? I'll let one of you guys talk.
I think, like, so we all kind of knew each other previously, and I think it was what Laura was saying about we all knew we had similar expectations. We all wanted to achieve roughly like the same goals, and there was, we kind of fitted together quite well. So then it was kind of just made sense. We get on with each other really well. We all want to achieve the same things. It's like, well, why haven't we put a team together? And we all kind of had sort of a similar budget and time that we could all put in, so everything just kind of fell together. I thought it happened quite naturally, actually.
It helps that they're going out as well. They're always together.
But I'm not involved with anything with Sarah. She's just like fat chick that takes up almost space in the door. Apart from that, she's not my peace partner. She's not my opposite. We actually don't really have much interaction.
It's a good point actually. If anyone's got a team that has got a couple in it, I know that sometimes people think, oh, don't be in a team with a couple because it's all going to blow up, and you've always got the danger that they're going to go home at night and be like, what the hell was Laura doing? She was so rubbish today. And but actually these guys are awesome because they don't act like a couple when we're in the team. Like that, we're just all on the same level and we've all got that same value. So if you are going to be in a team with a couple, it's really good if you can get people who are not super coupley while you're doing it. And don't be peace partners.
How do you handle disappointment? I mean,
Chris?
Badly, as a rule.
What's the question?
How do we handle disappointment?
I mean, whether it's like individual brain locks or team not achieving what you expect.
As a team, it's one of those, you have to, if you come down from a jump or you get out of a round in the tunnel and it hasn't gone to plan, there's no point taking that into the next round. There's no point coming out and having a go at people. It doesn't achieve anything. So you kind of have to try to just let it go. Debrief at the end of the comp, by all means, but during the competition, you put it behind you, you move on to the next round.
Casey always tells us to have level emotions, so try not to be too happy when you have a really awesome round, and then if you have a really bad round, then try not to be too disappointed. So it's kind of all about your emotions level all the way through.
Yeah, actually on that note as well, it's really easy if there's like a really fast, like say a random sprinter round, you get into a pace, and then if the next round's a triple blocker and you're still really excited from the really quick round you just had and try to go really fast in the triple blocker, chances are it's going to be a bad round. So like just about having level emotions is really important.
Yeah.
How do you manage expectations for long-term goals over short-term? Do you plan per year, or do you have 2-3 year plans?
Yep.
Or even shorter, do you have sort of next quarter, sort of 3-month plans?
Yeah, do you guys want to take that one?
I think for us, different teams have different, like I say, it goes back to the expectations. So I've been on teams that have had like a 4-year plan, and we've set aside, what we're going to do each year. And for me, I think, it might work for some people, and it has. For me, the struggles that I found was that you start to feel claustrophobic. Let's just say, on a training camp, you're tired, you're probably going to have a bad day, you're going to get a little bit stressed. And if you kind of think, oh God, I've got 4 more years of this, you feel very claustrophobic, and then it makes an issue that shouldn't be an issue much worse. So I think we take it 1 year at a time. It's kind of like the eclipse method, and I think that's really important, because then if you on a day that you maybe say that you are bothered, you know, you don't feel stuck, and then the problem never becomes an issue, you know. So I think for us, taking it 1 year at a time is really, really important.
I think also having like a really clear plan. So I mentioned how we time our blocks so that we can identify the areas where we need to work. We know that if we want to score the average we want to score at Nationals, we've got to have this score at the World Challenge, and we've got to have this by this point. So you always kind of plan what the milestones are as well. Short terms lead to long-term goals, yeah. Any more questions? Hey. Hello.
So, just thinking of a lot of this possibly in forward teams, how do you take that forward to, like, if you've got some forward teams in place who are thinking about doing 8-way alongside, is there any benefit of getting just 2 4-way teams together, or is it best to just start from scratch, or how do you sort of build from where you've already got team plans with your 4-way team to sort of still wanting to do 8-way all the time?
I think, if it's all right, I'll answer from my point of view. So I'm in a different 8-way team to the team that those guys were in. And I think it comes back to that having the goals really clear in your mind. So for Chimera, we're very clear that we really want to do well and we really want to progress. So we've all got that shared goal. But then in my 8-way team, so I'm in a team called the Awkward Turtles, it's much more about getting 9 people who are really good mates together, and we just happen to do some skydiving while that happens. So our goals that we set for our 8-way team are very different to the ones that I have for my 4-way team, which means that the people I'm in an 8-way team with are different people to the ones that I'm in a 4-way team with. But I think if you can identify what the goals are, then you can find the right teammates for each. And I can't see it being damaging to have 2 4-way teams who've already got really good relationships, as long as you can share the goals again and you can go through the step-by-step process.
Adding to that as well, I think, because at Sarlowy we were doing Chimera and the Awkward Turtles, and I think maybe just kind of making everyone clear, because we said, you know, we really want to do well with Chimera, so the Awkward Turtles was very much, you know, we'll want to jump and help prep, but the 4-way kind of took priority, so kind of having that ground rule and making sure everyone is clear. And sometimes it might be a little bit of an awkward conversation, but I think having that clear goal and managing that expectation is really, really important. Yeah. Sorry, was there a question? Sorry.
No, I was just going to add to that we've done that as well with my 8-way team, and a few people were in 4-way teams on the side. And I think the quick way to make it work is to see what the budget of individual are and make it clear that there is time for one and time for the other. It's really the team to be able to separate that if a team goes well, the other team goes bad, it's not an issue. And then making sure that when you're actually training and competing, if you do the 2 like those guys have done and like we've done, there are definite times when you do one and the other. You can have 2 teams. If you get the budget, you can have 2 teams that are both your priority. But in terms of time, you need to then make sure you balance the 2 to know which one is which, and you concentrate on one, and you don't let any emotion from one transfer to the other. And it works. We've proved that it works.
Any more questions?
I had a question.
Oh, go on then, Raf.
You spoke about wearing rigs in the tunnel, and that there has been a lot of like discussion in the last few years about whether it's worth it, it's not worth it. How do I used to do it, don't do it anymore. And I was wondering what you gained from wearing rigs in the tunnel.
Really sore arms. We find that our rigs have quite a marked impact on the moves that we make, in particular the momentum that we carry through. So if I'm moving from here to here without a rig, it's fairly easy for me to stop. But with that added weight and also the shape, and it makes a difference to the way that we fly. So we find that we get a huge amount of value out of having rigs on in the tunnel. Other teams might find that that's different, but what I'd say is you need to kind of give it a go and see what works for you. And it's also about what you're trying to achieve. So during our tunnel phase, it's all about seeing the pictures and getting the technique, whereas during our jump phase, when we put our rigs on in the tunnel, it's all about practicing for speed. So we already know the technique at that stage. I think if you were still trying to learn technique, wearing rigs doesn't really work so well.
If you're doing something like 3 hours of tunnel, I don't think it's worth putting the rigs on. What do you think will be the amount of time where it starts being worth separating the time between tunnel and rig in tunnel?
42.
Depends where the team is, depends how much you've you've got planned before or after challenge, for example, if you're doing a tunnel team that's then going into the sky. It just varies with every team.
And also how much actual jumping you're doing. Because if you're doing a lot of jumps, like probably someone like Hayabusa, then it's probably a bit less useful. But if you're a bit restricted on how many jumps you can do, then it's probably more useful to do the tunnel with rigs.
I feel personally that doing a tunnel with rigs on doesn't benefit me.
For us personally, we like to spend about 30 minutes with rigs when we do go into the jumping phase in the tunnel, because any more than that, like you're saying, you're just tired and it doesn't go as well. But 30 minutes for us. But again, like Chris was saying, you need to work out what that point is for you.
And having a coach helps us as well. Like, she pretty much tells us what to do and we do it. Pete, you had a question.
I was just going to ask, is it true that the four of you are actually somewhat superfluous and it is the cameraman that is the true hero?
I wouldn't say necessarily that he's the true hero, but I would say that he's got the hardest job and probably has to be the best flyer out of all of us to be able to achieve that. I think we saw last year that you can easily replace a tail, but if anything was to happen to Matt...
Don't you listen to them, Chris?
Any more questions? Matt is an awesome camera flyer, by the way. If anyone's got any camera questions, fire them over. You all got this, that's cool. All right, if there's definitely no more, we will go on to the final bits then. So bit of a promo. We've got a weekend coming up at Langar in March, on the 10th and 11th of March, where we are going to be putting together four-way teams and helping existing four-way teams. So if you're inspired by this talk and you want to give it a go, get in touch with us through our Facebook page, which is just Facebook.com/Chimera Skydive, and we can put you with other like-minded people and help to coach you through that weekend. If you're already in a team, come along, we'll give you some coaching and we'll help give you some tips to hopefully kickstart your season. We've also got a competition coming up on the 14th of February, the Scrambles.
14th of February is Valentine's Day, Laura.
I thought 14th was the Scrambles. 15th of March, there is a Scrambles event as well, which we'll be organising at Bodyflight Bedford. So if you want to come along, it's just a bit of fun. We rank people according to how much experience they say they've got, and we make sure that every team's got a similar amount of experience in them. And then we do some fun rounds where you'll do actual four-way, or you might have to build a Christmas tree, or you might have to do all sorts of fun stuff. So come and join us for that. And we've also got lots of tips and events that we do and mag articles that we write and all sorts of stuff, photos of James Woods' arse, anything you want, you can get it on our Facebook page. And yeah, so the final thing is to draw the free helmet. So everyone should have a raffle ticket. Should we ask someone? Potter, do you want to come and draw one for us since you're on the floor? Oh, it's because you didn't come at the beginning. You had to come at the start. It was too late. Right, so a free KISS helmet from Square One goes to...
Number 24.
Yes! Cool. Hey. If you can let us know your details, then we can sort that out for you. You get to choose the colour, you get to choose the size, you have to pay for shipping, you get a free helmet. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Bill Booth is on, apparently, so you probably want to get a move on. But thank you for coming. Hope that's been helpful.